Welcome to week 3 of 52 Needs, hashtag 52 Needs. And this week is all about clarity. And I'm very happy to have with me Suzy Scullin, who has a bachelor in interior design, but much more importantly, she is an expert in organization and decluttering. And she knows about clarity in a very different way. So I'm really looking forward to talking to her about why it is so important that we have a clear environment, or the effect rather of clutter on our mind and onto our mental clarity. Welcome, Suzy.
Hi, Angela. Thank you.
So tell us all about, how do you feel when you declutter?
Awesome. I actually feel awesome. I actually have an admission on my website that sometimes I leave a room to get a bit untidy in my house because I love the feeling I get from tidying up, you know.
Lovely,
But,
isn't it?
yeah, I just love it. I love it. So that's why I
Yeah,
love doing it for other people.
great. So what are the benefits of decluttering?
Well,
Other than finding things?
I was about to say you can find stuff. um, it's very it's a healthy thing in that the brain can only handle so much.
Mm.
So when we get overwhelmed, we can get overwhelmed just from what's going on in life, and then you add a whole pile of stuff around you in the house, um, or the office or whatever, and it just gets to be too much.
Mm.
Your brain is trying to deal with, you've got to pick up the kids from school and somebody's got to take them to soccer, that you haven't got the groceries, what are you going to cook dinner, the project you're working on right now has just gone pear-shaped, so you've got
Yeah.
all those things going on. You bring some of that back, you've got all of that stress and tension when you come home and you walk into the house and it's,
Mm.
bombs hit it.
Yeah.
um, and your brain sees all that clutter, that visual clutter also impacts. So then you've just added now another stress. So
Yes.
it's simply one less stress to have in your life if the place, be it your office or your house, is neat and tidy.
Okay.
It's
So
very
that's
calming.
great for common areas. I mean, I'm all in favor of, like when you share it, especially when you share it with either roommates, housemates, or with family. So have the common areas clean, the kitchen organized, the lounge room and all of that. But what about the personal space, the personal bedroom or children's bedrooms?
Yep,
Because children, they fly a little bit differently, don't they?
they do. But just popping back to your own bedroom,
Hmm.
very important for that, not to have clutter, because there's been studies show that it impacts your sleeping.
Oh, does it?
Yes, if you're in a messy or a cluttered room, you don't sleep as well.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you've got sleep issues, that can be a cause.
Okay, so now
Um,
I'm really curious. So if I have a really clean bedroom, but my wardrobe is full of clothes that I haven't worn in years, or things that I don't really need anymore, but I've just shoved into it, what about that?
that's going to impact every time you open that up to get something out in the morning. It's there going, oh God, this is a mess, and you've got that, you know, I haven't worn all this stuff, but you're hoping you'll get back into it or
Mm.
what or not. It all has an impact. So you can hide, you can hide the wardrobe, and hey, that's a step forward. If you've got everything else in the bedroom tidied up and it's looking good, that will help you sleep well. But there's going to be that thing in the back of your head, because we use our wardrobes every day.
Yeah.
So it's another area that does need to be,
Yeah.
you know,
So a
sorted.
lot of people just let it accumulate. I mean, that's how we get into, like really, like, I mean, I love cleaning up and I love taking things away. I lived out of a suitcase for 4 years, so I know
Yeah.
exactly how to get, I don't need a lot, and I think I've got much more than I actually need. But um, I know people who have garages full of stuff they never
Yeah.
throw out.
Yeah.
Uh, but purposeful clutter, like things where we say, okay, I might need this in a year. Is that stuff you want to keep, or do you want to throw it out?
Um, well, here's the thing. First of all, there's a limit to how much space you've got. I mean, how much space that you're also living in it easily and comfortably. I mean, we can fill our houses up for sure, but you know, that doesn't really work. With When you're deciding about items, you need to look at, am I still using it? Some things you only use once a year, your Christmas gear. Okay, but do I still use this? And what's the cost to replace it if I get rid of it and then I need it in a year's time?
Yeah.
So it's weighing those things up. How much space do I have? Can I get to it when I need it? So again, the rule is the less you use something, the more awkward the space you can have it stored in. It might be up in the attic or something like that. So that's a difficult one to answer. You need to look at what that item is and its value, and when was the last time you used it? So I really sort of think if you haven't used something for a couple of years, chances are you can live without it. If you know, and if you're going to use this ever again, so that's really what you need to base the decision on, is being realistic about that, not going up.
Yeah. So what about the what's her name? Marie Kondo. What about her method? Does it still spark joy? I mean, I have to admit I did that. I have been sitting and hugging sweaters to my chest and going, does it still spark joy? Only to discover 3 months after I threw it out, damn, why did I throw this out? I really like that.
Yeah.
Because at the moment in the space that I was in, it didn't spark joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, it's a great technique. There are, some flaws depending on the situation. It's applicable in some situations. I mean, in some spaces, you don't have the room to pile all of the one category of stuff together and go through it. So it's sort of a practical thing, but it's a lovely technique in many ways. With the spark joy, well, some things are just plain practical. So it's not about joy, is it?
Yeah.
This thing I use, kind of thing.
My vegetable peeler does not necessarily spark joy.
Spark joy, but it does the job and you use it every day. But other things, I'm personally actually going through this at the very moment. I'm moving. And I've started doing all of that. And I've been living where I am now 9 years. And I tend to naturally clear things out and declutter on a fairly regular basis. But I've been really surprised. You open something up that's got all your treasures in. Now I've got a chest that I've had for, it'd have to be 25 years. It's had the same stuff in there. I'm now reviewing it because I'm downsizing to a smaller place, and I now really need to look at how much of this stuff do I really need to keep? The excuse has been it fits in this chest, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Now it's deciding, So it's, it's looking. I went through photos on the weekend, and it was okay. Well, that's really not a very good photo. I'm not seeing the dog's face, or it's blurry or whatever. Come on, let's get realistic. Pick out those favorites. So. It is harder for some people than others, but I am surprised with a lot of my clients how decisive they can be once they get started. It's like, you know what? No. Yeah. And they've just been making excuses all this time for why they kept something. So generally you can tell. In your case with the blouse, I understand that. And I've certainly thrown out plenty of things where you go, where the heck is that? You sort of think, oh, well, I must have gotten somebody, a charity, somebody else in the city's wearing it because you donated it to charity or whatever. These things are going to happen. It's just how life is, I guess. You can only make the decision at the time based on what you feel.
So what do you recommend? What is the best way to keep a clutter-free environment? Because I know that it's really easy to postpone and say, I'll get to that later. Again, push it into the wardrobe or into the cupboard and just say, it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yep. With the wardrobe, seasons are a great idea. And when it comes to that whole concept of keeping things neat and tidy, it really is about habits. There's a lady I was speaking with recently. She goes, look, I'm good with the organising. I can organise stuff. She said, it's maintenance. And that's that's the trick. You know, we create these, what we think is a really great system. We went and bought the drawers and the storage things and we put all the stuff in there, but then we don't maintain it. And sometimes that's partly we we haven't bothered to implement the habit or the schedule or the routine. And the other can be that the storage thing that you chose or the way you chose to do it actually doesn't suit how you work. You've copied
Yeah.
an idea from somewhere, but that doesn't work for you and your family. That's not how you function because you're more visual, so on and so forth. So there's sort of, you need to assess, how do I function and what suits the way I function
Yeah.
as far as organizing.
I always say, I mean, I've heard that they say, well, do 5 minutes here and do 5 minutes there, and I've tried that, do the scheduling, like this week is the bathroom, next week is the kitchen, and it doesn't work for me. I mean, what I do is, I mean, I do this, but I don't do it on that in that regimented kind of way.
Yep.
What I like doing actually is if I have something that I'm working on, like I'm writing something or I have to think about something and I haven't come to a conclusion yet, that's when I go open up a drawer and start reorganizing it. Because in the process of reorganizing it and doing that mindless task, it sort of starts organizing my mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if that works for you, fantastic, and you get it done. It really is horses for courses, for some people, I think with busy families and so on and so forth, to schedule in a time
Yeah.
that certain things get done. I was with a client late last year and they, with three kids, I think they've got all the kids' artwork. Um,
Oh, yeah.
that, and what they do is, I think, is it once a month they would go through, sit down with the kids and pick out the favorites, and the rest went. And then once a year they would pick out the best of those from the year, and those were what got kept. And I imagine over time, then some of that might also get culled and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So, for some people, because they tend to avoid, it can be worth them putting that, scheduled time. So that, I mean, I would have thought they're going to be, the bigger the family, the more often, but there's going to be those several occasions throughout the year. But certainly once a year, there would be plenty to do in a house to keep
Yeah.
you occupied for a weekend, getting things tied in and sorted.
Yeah.
Generally.
Absolutely. So do you have any tips for us where you go, okay, if you really want to create clarity and declutter, what is the one principle that you go, we all, not, I don't like shoulds, but the one thing that we could all live by that would really make a difference?
Oh, you've caught me out on that one. There's so many things to think about, but the first thing that always comes to my mind is time is no excuse. So that one where people are going, well, I don't have time for that now, I'll put it off, doesn't work. It's not an excuse. It's just not an excuse. So I would be inclined to definitely ignore that. Just ignore time as an excuse, because there were people that were home for 3 months last year during lockdown and still hadn't dealt with their clutter and had been using I don't have enough time at home as to the reason why they had so much clutter. And here they were still surrounded by clutter and they'd had 3 months.
Yeah.
So start. Yeah, that would definitely be it. Just start. The number of times I've walked into a client's place and they go, I don't know where to start. And I literally walk over and just pick something up and go, where's this belong? What should we do with this? Is this the bin? Is this the... And then I pick up the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I walk away 2 hours later, the place is looking a whole heap better. And I'm thinking to myself, they could have done that themselves. Just pick something up and start.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It really is. Just pick anything up. It doesn't matter, just anything. Because if it's all a part of a big mess, everything's a part of that big mess. So
Mm.
whether it's the coffee cup you just drank has now become part of the environment. Pick that
Mm.
coffee cup up and go, okay, well, that gets washed, put back in the cupboard, or put it in the dishwasher with everything else at the moment. Turn around and go, okay, there's that other thing on the table, and just start.
Yeah.
Start.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, instead of waiting until you get to that state of overwhelm, just reframe it and saying, it's my strategy for clearing my mind.
Yes, and I love that of yours. I mean, it's a brilliant technique for getting unstuck
Mm.
in those moments. But the other is that I don't have time to do that now, or I'll put this off until I have time. But you haven't
Well,
scheduled time, it never happens. So just pick up something now. So
yeah.
if it is the only, like you mentioned, that doing 5 minutes here and there doesn't work for you, but you're doing it at a specific uh, time of need, if you will.
Yeah.
But sometimes instead of doing that couple of minutes on Facebook while you're waiting for the kids to get dressed or something like that, pick a
Mm.
few things up and put them away.
Yeah.
Every few minutes that you do that, um, you know, it all helps.
There's also a technique, I think it's called in psychology, it's called bundling, where you do one thing that you don't like doing and you combine it with something that's more pleasurable, but it's something
Yep.
that you really need to do. Like, for example, I mean, my thing is I get on the stepper and I allow myself to watch some Netflix, and I have
Yep.
to do so many minutes on the stepper.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you could, I mean, there are a lot of people who listen to audiobooks or podcasts, and it's really easy to do that, combine that. I do that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I
Definitely.
just listen to something, or I even watch out of the corner of my eye if it's a documentary or something where the visuals don't really matter that much, to really use that time to clean up.
Yeah. Yeah. If you aren't a highly busy person or whatever, it can be that, all right, if I do 15 minutes of decluttering, and I mean, it can be pretty overwhelming stuff. So I
Mm.
get that. If I do 15 minutes nonstop, I get to watch XYZ of
Yeah,
my favorite, whatever. Um, as you get better, you can watch it while you declutter, without getting distracted. So, yeah, definitely, I love the bundling idea. I read a really great book recently called Atomic Habits, and he speaks to this actually lots of really, really great techniques. A book worth reading. And that sort of thing is one of them. Combine something you don't like doing, but you need to
mm,
do and make a habit of, and combine it with something else that you're naturally already doing, or that gives you satisfaction or whatever, and just
yeah,
add it on to the end,
yeah.
um, bolt it on kind of thing. So there's a good few techniques,
Mm,
um, but some ways it sort of comes back a little bit to discipline in the end, just
yeah.
um, but you definitely benefit from it. You feel so much better.
Absolutely. I mean, we need clarity. We can't, as you said, it gets into overwhelm, and we get to a place where we can't really cope anymore. So having a clutter-free environment, or dare I say, a clear environment, whatever clear means to everybody. But
Yeah,
again, I
exactly.
don't
Look,
think you need to, yeah,
some people like more decoration around.
yeah,
I recently saw a photo of a woman that inside their house, um, and there were a lot of responses on the thing that I thought were really awful and inappropriate. Isn't that awful? There's too much stuff. Blah, blah. But when you had a really good look, it was a clean, sparkling clean,
mm,
tidy house. It's just that her decor was, it's not the minimalist, it's not the thing that might be the fashion or whatever.
yeah,
Clearly, she loved it because it was clean and tidy. And it was just a style that she liked, but it was sort of a bit, for a lot of people, kind of a little overwhelming to look at, but it wasn't actually clutter
mm,
at all. It was
it was
just her
purposeful.
style, and that doesn't suit the next person necessarily,
Yeah,
and minimalism doesn't suit me. I've spoken to this on one of my posts, that having hardly anything around. It's like, that doesn't work for me. I like it. I like my trinkets here and there, and so on and so forth. So it's what works for you,
Yeah.
but you'll know what your level is.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's a good way to close this. Thank you so much, Suzy. So
welcome.
by all means,
Randall.
find your own level of clarity, everybody, and
Yeah.
decide how many things you need and when you need them and how often you need them. And then decide on, when you need to get rid of them. And, and in the meantime, enjoy having a clear mind.
That's
Thank you,
it.
Suzy. Okay, I'll see
You
you
all
all
function
soon.
better with a clear mind.
Yeah.
Thanks, Angela. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.